right. So, welcome to our panel discussion. So, this is going to be climate challenges and youth engagement, inspiring action with Climate Fresk from France to Singapore. So, firstly, I would like to introduce our panelists, our in-person panelists. So, first, we have Natasha Lai, a Climate Fresk and biodiversity collage facilitator, all the way from Transmutation Principle. And talking about Climate Fresk, we have our co-country coordinator of Singapore and Schneider Electric sales engineer, Hegde. And last but certainly not the least, the creator, the founder of Climate Fresk. We have tuning in from France. We have Cedric Ringenbach. Hello, Cedric, can you hear us? I think you're muted.
Yes, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me as well?
Yes, we can. And that looks so nice and wonderful. So yeah,
that's
we're
great.
gonna amazing. So we're gonna start off by just saying I kept saying Climate Fresk. So what is this Climate Fresk? So firstly, I want to just ask everyone here, raise your hands if you have heard of Climate Fresk. Okay, so for Cedric, if you cannot see, it's around 30 to 40% of this room has heard of Climate Fresk. And could you raise up your hands again? Okay, and keep your hands raised if you have participated in Climate Fresk. Oh, the same hands, wow. Okay, so the same hands, around 30% of the room have also participated in Climate Fresk for you, Cedric. So that is our demographics. So just give you a brief introduction about what Climate Fresk is. So it's a very interactive and engaging games with cards where participants will get to link cause to consequences of all the different concepts within Climate Fresk to really understand what is climate change. And let me give you some statistics of how many participants have taken part in Climate Fresk. So maybe another question to the audience, you can just shout out, how many people do you think have participated in Climate Fresk in Singapore? Any guesses? Just any numbers? What do you think? One. Wow. So yeah, it's around 9,210. These are the registered ones. Maybe there's some who have not registered, but this is the numbers we have. And internationally, we have 1.9 million. So I want to start off the session by asking the creator of Climate Fresk, Cedric. My question to you on decentralized governance and bottom-up education would be that, see, decentralized governance has been a key element for Climate Fresk. Can you explain how it has worked in practice and why is this essential in scaling climate education?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think that this kind of organization was really key in the rollout of the Climate Fresk from the beginning. It started, the real story of Climate Fresk didn't start when I invented the game, that was in 2015. I invented the game in 2015, and then the real beginning of the rollout was in 2018 when we had the opportunity to play the game with 900 students. And for this occasion, I had the opportunity, I had to recruit 30 moderators, and I managed to do it in 2 weeks. And this event went very well, and it created a lot of motivation for the people who attended it. And that was the beginning of the real rollout, because all the people who have been moderating this workshop wanted to go on moderating. A few of them became trainers for moderators, and they went on training new moderators, and we started to have an organic growth with people playing the game and wanting to become moderators, people becoming moderators, moderating, etc., etc. And I saw a lot of energy among the folks, and the people were taking initiatives because I told them to do. I told them that they were legitimate to go ahead and organize events, organize sessions, trainings, etc. And when we created the association, between the moment when we really formally created the association and the moment when we had the first General Assembly with a lot of public attending this General Assembly, I had the opportunity to read a very important book, which is Swarmwise, written by the founder of the Swedish Pirate Party. And this was very inspiring because it was already corresponding to our way of organization, which was very horizontal and people being able to make decisions on the ground. And I showed a few slides taken out of this book to this General Assembly, and it became one of the pillars of our organization, with concepts like the doocracy. The people who do things decide how to do things, and the people who want to do something, who decide to do something, then they have to do it, and not deciding things and let other people do it. And also the fact that you can make decisions as long as you have as long as you are three people. Originally it's the rule of the three pirates, and it became the rule of the three Freskers. Three people who consider themselves legit to make a decision and agree about this decision are able to do it and to engage the whole movement. But the very important fact is, before you make a decision, is to check if you are legitimate to do it. And just this little thing, this little detail, prevents you from doing many mistakes. And so that's the basis on which we have built this movement. And you see, it took us 5 years to go from 1,000 participants to 1 million participants. So in 5 years, we made a multiplication by 1,000, which is very amazing. And today, the growth of this movement is still here, especially in the newcomers for the French, the countries outside France. Like in Asia, like in Singapore, these countries are leading the growth of the movement today.
Thank you so much, Cedric. And now I want to talk more about engaging diverse audiences or youth in Singapore about Climate Fresk. So my first question to Raj is that Climate Fresk has reached a wide variety of audience, and engagement outcomes can vary greatly. So how do you see people from different backgrounds and demographics differing in their takeaways from this workshop?
Thank you, Karan. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for inviting me on this panel, as well as Cedric for the wonderful introduction of what the Climate Fresk is. So I'm not sure if you heard whether you could capture what he said, but really the Climate Fresk has taken a huge journey over the last about 5, 6, 7 years. Like he said, multiplied by more than 1,000 times in terms of the outreach globally. Now, for those of you that are not very familiar, I see a lot may not have done the Climate Fresk before, but I thought it would be good for me to just give them an overview of what we do in the workshop, because then you would understand, why it's a very powerful tool. It's a 3-hour workshop that you can take part in. You start off with playing what's sort of a card game. Since that sounds very exciting, it's a card game, 1.5 hours, and then you would then continue with emotions, with doing some solutions, etc. Why it's so powerful tool is because it follows a pedagogical format where we call head, heart, and hands. Head, where you learn the knowledge, you then use the knowledge to activate certain emotions. So part of the Climate Fresk workshop is you discuss on how you're feeling after you've gone through this theory, I wouldn't say theory session, but this knowledge gaining session. And then you conclude with a call to action, which is, theorizing some actions that you can take, etc., etc. So where it differs, I'm now going back to your question, which would be how different audiences, correct me if I'm wrong, how different audiences
differ in their takeaways?
In the takeaways from the on the Fresk itself. Quite simple answer would be different age groups coming from different backgrounds have very diverse experiences and takeaways from it. And if I could put it in context, in Singapore, we have several pro bono workshops that we do in public spaces where generally you're reaching out to students, to university students, people who are working. That means after office hours, they would come in and take part in the workshop. Or you would also, if you reach out in the heartlands, you are meeting a lot of these families, right? Parents with young children, etc. And you would notice that from the elderly down to the student, there is a very stark difference, right? Because for students who are just coming out of universities, who are in university, who are still studying, who have better or maybe just fresh mind when it comes to such scientific concepts, they are able to relate to it at a much more granular level when we talk about concepts related to climate change. And therefore they are a bit, some are worried, some are a bit dejected, some maybe even a bit optimistic. But what we see is that in the younger audiences, there is a greater respect for the science and the consequences, because really it's the generation that is going to see a lot of the more adverse effects of climate change. You go a bit more higher into the parents' age group, what we do notice is also concern for their children. And this is where we are a bit heartened, I would say, because you realize that when parents, in their 30s, 40s, are bringing 8, 9-year-old kids in, it's very good, because as a society, you are now having more and more transmission of this knowledge from a very young age. So we see that even these parents are getting a bit more concerned, but they are very delighted that there are such avenues in which they can learn more about climate change. And what the tool does so well, regardless of how you feel at the end of the day, I think is that it's able to convey the problem of climate change in a very short amount of time. There's a way we always try to talk about in the workshop, is that how do you learn about climate change? Well, you can read the whole IPCC reports, which is about 1,500 page, for 3 working groups, or you read the synopsis, the summary for policymakers, SPM in short, which is what our ministries read a lot on when they come decide on policies, or you spend 3 hours doing the Climate Fresk. And really the 3 hours that you spend in the Climate Fresk is a great way to learn about climate change. And regardless of how they feel at the end of the day, one thing we notice is that they take away something. And what we hope for is, again, regardless of how they feel, we want to use the emotion to drive actions at the end of the day.
Yeah, thank you for explaining Climate Fresk and talking about the diverse takeaways. And my question to Natasha now is, if we dive deeper into today's topic for youth and engaging the youth from your experience in many workshops, whether they're public or corporate, for youth, what has been your experience engaging with youth? And importantly, how do you see them taking ownership of the message?
Hi, okay, so I just want to start off also as an engaged youth myself. So I didn't come from an academic sustainability climate background. I just had an interest in sustainability. So I think the Climate Fresk is really for anyone who is from any different level of knowledge or different background. So I knew that when I first did my first Climate Fresk, I was mind blown, because you usually only know things maybe like greenhouse gas emissions, you only know about rising temperatures, but to look at it from a bigger picture and to see the whole system in place and how it affects society, I think that was really a changing point for me, where I realized that this is something that people need to know. So I think in my experiences, so I do both community workshops, but I also deploy the Climate Fresk in corporate settings with my clients and stuff like that. So with youth audiences, there's usually a very, very wide range of people who are engaged. So there are those who are have an interest in sustainability. Maybe they know some background about climate change, but they're just here to learn. So from their Climate Fresk experiences, I can see that they go away feeling rather they do have a heaviness also, knowing the reality of climate change, but they also leave feeling I want to take action in my communities, I want to spread the word, I want to do something. But on the other hand, I think there are also some people who maybe are a bit apathetic towards it. So I've done a few like workshops with students, universities, polytechnics. I think like the funniest one was after a workshop, I heard a guy mutter to his friend, "That was so boring," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I think like to hear this kind of feedback also, it also made me realize that even amongst the youth, there are still people who need to be converted, people who need to be educated, to be inspired also. Yeah, so I know that sometimes we stereotype youth as always like the ones who are the change makers, the ones who are the ones who want to make a difference, but not all the time are they given the opportunity, the right spaces, or the right capacities to do that also. I think in my experience, I also see that with youth or with like people who are just starting out, just starting to learn, their next step isn't to, I want to do something. Their next step is to, I need to find out more first. I need to go and upskill myself. I need to make the right connections. Yeah, so I think especially for youth and for change makers, the Climate Fresk is really just an enabler. It's the first kind of like the place where a lot of their ideas start to happen, their own connections to the topic also begin. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Climate Fresk is really like a first step, a first stepping stone to really wanting to do more. And so now bringing it back to Cedric, if we can have him on the screen. Yeah, so for Cedric, you have been in previous COPs before, so my question is on those experiences. So, yeah, so talking about COP, from your recent experiences in COP, how do you see climate education fitting into the international agenda for meaningful change?
Yeah, that's a very good question. When I came to the COP, and we were a lot of freskers attending the COPs when we did, and it was there was one reason for us to attend the COP, which was we wanted to meet as many people as possible and to show around the Climate Fresk, and this was successful. Then the negotiations are something different. It's countries gathering to make decisions about climate, and it's a lot of negotiations. And when you are an NGO attending a COP, you don't really attend these kind of negotiations. You are in another place, still in the blue zone, but in another place, and meeting a lot of people. It's like there are two different COPs at the same time. One with the negotiators and one with not the tourists, but the people like us who don't attend the negotiation and who are more here to make contact and contact a lot of people, and it's worth it. Now about climate education and specifically, we had the opportunity to meet a lot of people and to show them the Climate Fresk and also to make them play, including negotiators, and we were a bit disappointed to see that the level of knowledge of the people in the COP is not that high. You have people who work on climate for years and sometimes even for decades, and still they have a lot to learn about the basics of the climate knowledge, and it's something that makes me think that maybe we should have taken the topic in the right order. Let's start with putting the assessment first on the table and have everybody know about it, about the basics, and then let's talk about the negotiation and what we can do. So I still think after a few COPs, I still think that bringing awareness on climate change is still the first brick of the climate transition. Because there is still a lot to do about it. I used to say sometimes that the reason I keep hope is that I really believe that the people who will find the best solutions to solve the climate issues are the people who today still don't know anything about it. And the reason why is that because there are much more people who don't know about climate than people who know about climate. And so there are so many people that statistically speaking, once they know about it, they will find solution with us. And even when we climate activists, climate knowledge activists, when we will be tired and then when we will be too tired to have enough energy to fight climate change, then maybe some people will come and come after us and do the job, and including people who still today don't know anything about it. And when you think that, then you realize that your job, your first mission is to go and get them, to go and find these people, tell them about the topic, do the Climate Fresk, do other workshops, and bring them on board, because we need to be many more people aware of this issue in order to make a difference. Because solving climate issue will be a very big challenge. We will have to completely reinvent the economy is working. And for that, you need everybody on board. And you don't have everybody on board if nobody knows about it. So that's the reason why we still need to work on bringing awareness with all this wonderful community of Freskers. Today it's 90,000 people who are able to fresk, and including in COP. So I don't attend the COP this week, as you can see, this year, and but I intend to be there next year, because there is a much more interesting agenda in Brazil next year, because I still think it's a place to do something interesting about spreading knowledge and spreading the Climate Fresk.
Yeah, thank you, Cedric. So it's very important to increase awareness and have everyone on board. Like you can see, Cedric is already on board. So now talking about beyond the workshop itself, like I started off by saying the statistics. These are how many people who have participated. But I want to ask Raj now, what comes after a workshop? How do we measure the impact beyond attending the 3 hours workshop? What has been in your experience?
That's a very good question. I want to start off with the fact that before we jump the gun too much, at the end of the day, I think the first key issue is still for us, I mean, particularly for me, I think is making sure the Climate Fresk reaches to more and more audience, because even in Singapore, because population density is higher, but still we feel that it's not reaching enough audiences at the end of the day. You would be surprised, there are so many people that are not aware of the issues, especially among the youths, because really when we talk about, I agree with what Cedric has said. At the end of the day, the people that are probably going to bring the biggest changes to the climate change problem through solutions are probably those that don't know about it yet. Because technology, whether you talk about nature-based solutions or not, at the end of the day, you just need more people working on the problem. But today, I think we don't have that yet. But how do you measure the success? Coming back to the question, how do you measure the success at the end of the day? For us, particularly, what we try to do, or what we have been trying to do, is first and foremost, I think, it depends on where you are deploying it. I think it's much more easier to track when you deploy it in corporate. So for those that don't know, when we talk about the deployment of the Climate Fresk, we just don't do public workshops. We also actively work with corporates in the deployment as well. Because even in corporates today, the sustainability teams, the general employees, you want to educate them on climate change, and they have found that the Climate Fresk is probably the best tool out there that can do, because 3 hours and you really can give them enough knowledge for them to be inquisitive and to specialize in whatever domain they want to. So in corporates, it's a bit more easier to track. And how we generally track is that, so you've got the workshop phase itself, where you do the game. You've got the emotions phase, where we try to understand how everyone is feeling. And everybody feels a bit more differently, right? Depending on how the facilitator is like. Are they very enthusiastic? Are they not? But use that emotions to then drive the actions. And the way we measure the success is to see maybe 5, 6 months or 1 year down the road. I'm talking about corporates here. Is we try to see how they are feeling maybe 1 year down the road, and also we try to follow up on the actions that they take. So for us specifically, I can speak from my own corporate experience or perspective. Usually from sessions where we've had very good solutions, we try to form working groups. So for example, one of the classic solutions that come up after or during a Fresk workshop is try to do maybe meatless Mondays, right? That sounds nice. Yeah, also whereby, you want more people to maybe increase the uptake of vegetarian meals. And then you work with the finance, the HR, the procurement to see whether you can get, procure some vegetarian meals on a particular Monday of the week. Right, so that's one way we try to track the progress. How's the solution coming along? Are there more people doing it? You try to see whether just around the office, what's the practice like. However, I must also say that when you compare that to the outside, the pro bono ones that we do, it's been a bit more difficult to track. That's because I think firstly it's hard to be so intrusive because you don't have a common place where people can gather and it's hard to follow up on them. But I can tell you what we are working on is trying to create a post questionnaire where we try to keep track with this group of people to see their actions maybe 6 months or 1 year down the road. It's a bit more challenging because it's a bit more dispersed. But to me, personally, the way I see it is a success if maybe the participant want to become a facilitator at the end of the day, right? Because one of the things, and I go back to the point of awareness, it is so important that you feel impacted by the workshop that you want to do something about it. And when we train, I hope some of you would do the workshop and become facilitators, but when we train participants to become facilitators, we give them some 4 cardinal rules that they should try to follow and really achieve at the end of the day. And the thing that we're always trying to get them to do is make sure that as a facilitator, when they finish their workshop, the participants leave with the message that they're going to do something about it. Not that, the facilitator was great, I really learned a lot. That's okay, but if you're going to do something about it, because there must be an action bias, right, at the end of the day. If they're going to do something about it, then I think it's successful. And if they become a facilitator, that means the participants leaves the workshop and say, I feel impacted by it, I want to become a facilitator, I want to spread the message to others. To me, that's a sign of success. So that's one way we try to measure success. What is the conversion of participants who become facilitators? But it goes beyond that. I mean, for starters, it's okay. But if you follow the corporate example, I think another way to also track it is to look at the actions and what they are doing on a day-to-day basis. And when we talk about actions, we always say, it's not for a lack of better term, it's not a mathematical step function, right, where you're eating meat and suddenly going to be vegetarian all the way. But are you taking some actions that is gradually decreasing in terms of your consumption habits, in terms of your travel habits? Are you going to do something about it? So if at the end of the day they are making this progress, and I know it's a bit difficult, but if we can track that, then I think that's some of the ways that we measure success.
Yeah, that's true. Like, firstly, we need to reach more people to go through the workshop. So hopefully everyone here after this registers for the workshop to really understand what entirely Climate Fresk is and the climate change is all about. And talking about meatless, our dinner at 7 p.m. is going to be meatless in this last week and this week. So yeah, now my question to Natasha now, if you're zooming into, you talked about the challenges. So I want to ask you, how do you customize the workshops or your focus to make it more relevant and more familiar to the Singapore context? And does that work?
So I think to contextualize the workshops, actually in my day-to-day, because I work as a sustainability consultant also, a lot of my job scope is also designing workshops to curate it to the audience. So while the Climate Fresk was founded in France and there's all of this data about climate change, I think we really need to scope the presentation to how it relates to us as Singapore. What are the threats that we face in Southeast Asia? But I think especially what really connects Singaporeans is when we talk about the rising temperatures, right? Everybody is already so hot. So I think these kind of things that are relevant to our personal everyday lives, I think these are the kind of things that I try to help make the connection for people. And I think also in terms of like being creative in terms of trying to get people to work on actionable solutions from different angles. So I've tried all kinds of like workshop actionable and brainstorming methods. Sometimes we get them to do like usually at a Climate Fresk, you will also make a personal like commitment. So I think that's where change begins. Your own like lifestyle habits also. What can you look at to be involved? But beyond that, also we always talk about like community. And we always talk about communal effort, because like climate change or just any nature related topic needs people together. So I think a lot of our actions also focus on as a community, as a society, or even in your own personal like social circles. It doesn't even need to be in your company in a like formal setting, but it's really like when you go home after this workshop, what is your message? What are you going to be sharing with your family? Are you going to be telling them not just like the key facts or whatever you picked up, but like how it inspired you? I think making that personal connection for people really helps. And like I think for myself also, in my own social circles, like when I meet up with friends, we'll just be catching up, sharing like our life struggles. And for me, like a very key struggle is this sense of worry. Maybe even if you guys know like climate anxiety, I think that is something that I often share about because it's so personal to me as a person. And I think that's really how you also move the needle, how you get people to start caring from that one-to-one connection or one in your group settings. That's the gist of what I have to share on that.
Yeah, and I have so many more questions to ask the three of you, but I also want to pass the time to the audience to ask Q&A. There's two ways. You can either raise up your hands and ask, or there's a QR code here, Mentimeter. You can scan and then you can type your questions. So any questions from the crowd? Okay, can he have a mic? No, we need the mic to record. Yeah. No, it's okay.
Okay, the question that I want to ask, first of all, I do heard of Climate Fresk workshop because I have attended such workshops, and I have been very actively participating in a lot of those sustainability and climate change events. Just would like to find out about what exactly does a sustainability consultant do on a day-to-day job. I understand it about the part about coming out with workshop. Yes, I know that one. I've been through the process before, so I know how it feels. It's just what exactly does your job do on a day-to-day basis? That's all.
I'm guessing that's for me. I think being a consultant is also very diverse. There are a lot of ways that you can kind of shape your role as the role also shapes you. So I don't think that there is one conventional way of consulting that you can do. I mean, there are people who do like carbon counting, there are people who write reports, there are people who also do like with senior management, they advise them. But I think that having the Climate Fresk as part of like my job scope is a very, very interesting way of I guess making that connection for like between the topic and also in a corporate setting. So I guess for me, it really entails a lot of trying to understand what the company or the audience's agenda is also in kind of like coming for the Fresk, but also what they want to do within their companies with a workshop like that. So you can think of it as kind of like a training tool. Just curating the content for them and aligning it with their own sustainability objectives also. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. Anyone else wants to ask a question? And we can ask Cedric as well, so feel free to type or raise up your hands. Okay. Right, no questions then.
Hello?
Yeah, Cedric, yeah?
Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't hear you very loud, but it's okay. Yeah, I understand the question. What is why do I do as a day-to-day job as a consultant? Because outside Climate Fresk, I also have a consulting company. It's called Blue Choice, and we work on transition risks. It means that we work with company about what could happen to them in the case the transition really happens. Because many companies talk about doing something about climate change. They want to reduce their CO2 emissions. They want to do a lot of things, but they don't really face the hypothesis that they don't really envisage the hypothesis that that the transition really happens. Because if the transition happens, it means a lot of things have changed before for it to happen. And if you think about the consequences of these conditions to be changed on your business model, then you have very interesting questions. You think about the CO2, the CO2 emissions, not the one you are responsible for, but the one you are depending on. Let me give you an example. I can try to reduce my CO2 emissions as a company, but maybe my clients will do the same, and they will just give up buying the things that I manufacture. And in this case, I'm at risk with my business. And symmetrically, there are also opportunities, because if the transition happens, we will need new products, new services, and it can be an opportunity for my company. So we work on this. It's a bit like working on any kind of risk with one specific point about this transition risk is that you cannot make any assessment of the probability that the things will happen or not happen. When you work on risk like physical risk or security risk or this kind of risk, most of the time you're able to say more or less if it's likely to happen or not. When you talk about the transition, you don't know, because it depends on the decisions of human beings around the world, including people that are outside your company. And for this reason, it's difficult. So I think transition risk is a very interesting topic. It will raise in the future, and it's important because it's the way companies can do their share by preparing themselves to new regulations later, to new rules of the games on the economical point of view, new legislations in the future. What they have to do is that, prepare themselves for new legislation, so that the day when these legislation arrive, the companies have to be ready and not lobby against the new regulations.
Yeah, thank you for answering this question. And any more questions from the crowd? You can also raise up your hands if you want to ask questions. Okay, so my next kind of wrapping it up, I want to just ask each of you one by one. Maybe start with Natasha. My mic is off. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think the battery. Okay, yeah. That's why, Cedric, you couldn't hear me. Sorry. So my mic was off. Yeah, so I just wanted to now wrap up with just asking each of the panelists, starting with Natasha. Why do you think Climate Fresk can help the audience, the participants, understand climate change better? And what do you want their takeaways to be beyond the Climate Fresk?
So my key takeaway for you guys is to attend the next Fresk, of course. But I think to really allow yourself to be open to the possibility of not knowing also. Because we may think that we know all about climate change, right? But actually we don't. There's just so much complexity to it. And it's like a never-ending rabbit hole of learning. Not just rabbit hole, but also like a whole journey. Like even for myself as a facilitator, I've done like so many workshops in so many different settings. I am still always learning something new at the next workshop, or with every audience that I also do the Fresk with. They always provide new insights. They always provide new challenges. They also come with their own questions and their own stories. So I would encourage you to really just be curious and to always live in the not knowing yet, and always to search for more and to learn more. Yeah.
Raj?
Thanks for that, Natasha. I'll probably echo what you said as well. do attend the next Climate Fresk. I'll be around after this, so if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. I think, without sounding like we are selling something here, I mean, it's free at the end of the day, but at the end, I think regardless of where you come from, if you want to learn a bit more about climate change, well, I'll tell you this is the best place to do so. If you are in a corporate, you want your employees or your colleagues, or you have your own company, you want to learn more about climate change, this is a great tool to use. Or you just want to, have a fun time as well, this is also a great exercise to have. Something why I think we talk a lot about climate change is in this day and age, I go back again, we need to raise a lot of awareness. A lot of people don't know, or there are people that think they know, but actually they don't know. And I think it's a great tool within 3 hours for you to get a very good overview of the climate change problem. It's hard for me to say now, actually, if you didn't go through the workshop, but I think it is an excellent tool for you to get a good summary of what it is, and gives you enough information for you to be curious on what you want to take your next steps on. So my view is, please join the next workshop. We do see that there are a lot of interest coming in, especially from the younger generations. If you know somebody that will be keen, you are from a university, university groups, and feel free to reach out to us. I think it will really help us. So, and I think I'll be around later on if you want to know where we conduct our pro bono workshops. And there were 3 of them that we do at a public level. Feel free to reach out to me as well, and do follow, I think, the Climate Fresk Singapore on LinkedIn, so you would see the list of workshops that you can take. So yeah, only one message, just attend the next one. Yeah.
Can I add like 2 more points? Very small points, but I think while we are here talking about the COP and the climate agenda is very important, I think as a biodiversity collage facilitator also, I think we need to find a way to better marry the 2 topics together and to find solutions, not at separate levels, but in a joint agenda also. But secondly also, I think I wanted to say also that, on the topic of human capital today, and engaging people of different audiences and youths also, I think that the Climate Fresk and the whole climate space now, what I also see in my experiences at work is that while people experience they are learning, they also want to get all of their employees on board on the same page. So I think that is also a very important thing that you could also do. Attend the workshop, but also bring it home, bring it to your workplaces, bring it to anybody who really needs to get the basic knowledge of what climate change really is. Yeah, and maybe Cedric.
Yeah, Cedric, why do you think participants here in this audience should attend Climate Fresk, and what should be their takeaways? What do you think?
I have to be honest. When you will learn about climate change, you will learn bad news. And you will even realize that it's even worse than you thought. But precisely because of that, I advise you to do it during a workshop of Climate Fresk, because you will not be on your own. You will be a group of people you will be a group of people who will learn about these things together. You will share your emotions about that, and above all, you will think about what you can do. And when you leave the workshop, you will be willing to do something. You will be knowing that you are able to do something, and that's very important. So I also advise you to do the workshop. And for those who did the workshop already, I also advise you to become Freskers, go for a training, and bring the workshop anywhere you can, family, friends, everywhere.
Yeah, and I would just like to add on to Natasha, Raj, and Cedric. So remember at the beginning I said we are linking cause and consequence, and spoiler alert, it's not a straight line. It's very diverse. So we get to really see the extent of the problem, and everyone here is gathered because everyone here, I'm guessing, feels for the environment, sustainability. So as we see this workshop, as we go through it, we get to understand what are the different problems and where maybe you yourself can work on. Which aspects can you target? Which aspect do you want to focus on, either in an individual level, in a personal level, community, or corporate setting? So really, I feel like we might sound a bit salesy, but it's just a brilliant tool to really educate yourselves. And also one more thing I like to add is that all the statistics are from IPCC. So it's a scientific based, and it's really trying to help you learn. And after that, you yourself can be a facilitator where you will have a 3-hour training as well, and you can teach others. The more people that know what exactly Climate Fresk is, what exactly the challenges, the problems in the climate change space is, the faster we get to at least try to solve parts of it, or if not one day, hopefully all of it. So I'd like to just end off with Raj. Yeah, have a question?
I just want to say one more thing. So to end off on this, this is open to almost, I would say, all age groups. So if you are, you have children, 15, 16, or friends for 15, 16 years old, all the way up, they can do the classical version of the Climate Fresk. If you have younger kids, actually you can also, we do have workshops for, there's a kids fresk, there are some simplified fresk. So there are many avenues to actually pass on this information. And I think I like what Cedric mentioned. It is actually bad news because, trust me, I think when we do our facilitation, we tend to be quite strong with the statistics. Not heavy, but you'll realize that actually the situation is quite dire. But not to worry, because we do this in a group setting, so you have group mates. It is quite fun because it's collaborative. And I think if we do a good job well enough, it will not only give you knowledge, but inspire you to do something about it. So, regardless whether you want to work in terms of a career or you want to do something for the environment, this is a great opportunity to do so. And yeah, like she said, there's many other fresks that you can do. Actually, there are thousands of fresks, not thousands, but over 50 fresks out there that are branching out from the Climate Fresk. So the Climate Fresk gives you a very good overview of the climate change problem. But there are subsets that you can deep dive a lot more. Biodiversity, digital collage. So if you are in the IT space, you want to know the impact of IT on the environment, there's a digital collage. There is circular economy collage.
2 tons.
Yeah, 2 tons. Yeah, exactly, 2 tons. I forgot about that actually, but yeah. If you're very keen on solutions, I recommend you do the Climate Fresk, then you also do the 2 tons. Because it will give you a much greater detail on how you can achieve from where your emission is at today, which you'll calculate before the workshop. And during the workshop, you see what are the actions you can take and how difficult is it to reach the 2 ton per person per year. So don't want to give too much information, but I think there are a lot of information out there. The Fresk are a great tool. There's a reason why it's become very popular, because it has a very pedagogical nature and they do it in a short amount of time. So highly encourage you guys to sign up for it. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask us. We're more than happy to have more people on board. And for those that have done it, we hope you can be facilitators as well. Right, thank you.
So thank you so much, Natasha, Raj, and Cedric tuning in. So yeah, welcome to the end of this panel discussion. And yeah, Cedric, would you like to say something, is it? Oh, he's saying. Okay, so yeah.
I think the most important thing have been said. So thanks for this event, and sorry for the bad circumstances for me to talk to you, but I hope it was okay. And thank you for the organization. And good luck to all the Freskers in Singapore and in Asia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cedric.
Thank you, Cedric.
Thank you.
All right, over to you, Claire.